This week's episode of This Is Only a Test is made possible by Ops Genie because incidents happen. Thankfully, Ops Genie empowers dev and ops teams to plan for service disruptions and stay in control during incidents. It also gives teams the power to respond quickly and efficiently to unplanned issues and helps notify all the right people through a smart combination of scheduling and escalation paths. With Ops Genie, your next incident doesn't stand a chance. Visit opsgenie.com to sign up for a free company account and add up to 5 team members. That's opsgenie.com. Never miss a critical alert again with Ops Genie.
Hey, let's start the show.
For Thursday, December 13th, 2018. Welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com.
You talked over it. God. Oh my God.
We're in the endgame now.
Here we are.
Hello and welcome to a very special pre-holiday, pre-Christmas edition of This Is Only a Test. I really hope you're watching the video out there because that will make, one, the audio flub that just happened mere 30 seconds earlier make a lot more sense and less awkward.
It will.
Maybe more awkward? I don't know. But two, because if you're not watching the video, well, you're in for a treat. Go to the YouTube page and turn on the video.
We're just being festive.
You're overselling
Very
it.
festive.
You're overselling it.
No. Come on. When have we ever coordinated like this before?
Oh my
When?
goodness.
Yeah, you heard them. You heard him just a second ago. It's Jeremy Williams, audio engineer,
Hi, Norm. Show host.
and Kishore Hari back from a week off doing who knows what.
Yeah, I was doing a lot of who knows what.
Were you in isolation this past week? Is that what happened?
No.
You were
Unfortunately not.
screaming into a void, though.
Yes,
that
I
feels.
was.
That's exactly what you were doing. How are you guys doing?
I gotta admit to you, I'm tired. I'm ill-prepared for this podcast.
What's new?
Well, normally I try to read up, I spent an hour before the show reading up, and I just didn't have it today. So we'll see how this goes.
What's your excuse? I mean, there was no Apple event or anything.
Fatigue.
Yeah.
Just fatigue. I don't know. I got this cold.
You got the olds.
I know what that is now.
A case of the olds.
Yeah.
That happens.
An update. We are now off the rectal scale. We're on the O scale.
The
I
rectal?
explained
You had a rectal scale?
Well, the Richter scale.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Right. In describing the poo, I apologize.
I'm going to speak
in
on
advance.
behalf of a number of people in the audience. And
They don't wanna hear about the poo.
We don't need to hear this.
All right. I'll tell you.
You're on,
This morning was not kind.
you're on the O scale now.
I'm on the O scale. How many O's?
Like, ooh.
Like poo. It's shorthand. Well, what was the magnitude? It was a 4-0
Oh, my gosh.
release.
Yeah.
We had our first 6-0 last night. It was not good. Anything over 4 O's is spillover. Anyway, let's get to some. How about just jump right into our top story?
All right, fine.
Top story this week.
I'm so sorry, Kishore. I'm so sorry that you weren't here last week when we got to talk at length. Did we? Was that last week? No, we
The
did.
trailer came out after.
I just talked at length with other people off podcasts about it because it's been in my head for a long time. This is a trailer that I think broke records, beat The Lion King out as most viewed trailer in the first 24 hours. How many millions? 249 million, I believe.
I was responsible
views?
for many of those views again.
I would
Of course, we're
accept
talking
nothing
about
less.
Avengers Endgame.
And all these people wrote to me like, have you watched this yet? Mm-hmm. I had alarms set in the house.
Oh, my gosh.
My wife is like, why is there an alarm going off at 6 a.m? And you're just looking at your phone.
Was it 6? I thought it was earlier than that even.
It was around, I think it was around 6 is when it was purported to drop.
It was 5 o'clock because I was cleaning up. I was doing a feeding, and when it dropped mid-feeding, because one hand the baby bottle, one hand on Twitter, and
I got
It
a
made everything
notification
great.
closer to
You
6.
watched it then?
of course I watched it. I woke Danica up and I said,
Wow.
I said, what's wrong with the baby? Is he fussing? No.
It's the
It's the
Avengers.
we're in the end game now.
Did she?
I've watched this trailer so many times now. I'm sort of been addicted to watching it, and I just absolutely hated it.
Wow. What?
I have this overt reaction to this trailer. I can't stand it. I have a visceral reaction to what I saw. It was terrible. It's easily the worst Marvel trailer ever.
Wow. Are you being serious?
I am being serious.
Okay.
I'm being
Well,
serious, and I'll explain why.
Oh, wait. So for people out there, if you are not one of the 249 million people who watch this trailer and you're holding out, then I'd say skip to maybe 10 minutes from now, because let's do a little bit of a trailer breakdown.
We have not talked about this yet in person, just so that we're clear for the audience. Like, this is not a recap. Like, I have not heard why Kishore hates this trailer.
Maybe it's in my dreams. I have had conversations with both of you in my dreams about this trailer. So real, it's happening now. Okay.
This is the best possible outcome. You loved the first one, Infinity War, right?
Oh, I loved both of the trailers for Infinity War.
No, I mean the movie, the last movie.
Oh, and I love the movie too.
Yeah.
But we're talking about a trailer.
I hear you.
Teaser trailer.
And it's a teaser. So let's not oversell it for what it is. But let's take this way too seriously now. What is the point of a trailer? To get you excited, maybe give you a little tidbit of the story that you're going to see without revealing too much.
It serves two purposes, right? As a marketing tool, one, it is a build up hype, right? Hype as this intangible, unquantifiable asset for promotion purposes, and two, raise awareness, because even though the people in this room and probably most of you out there are aware and know this movie is coming out, there are still large swaths of people, not only in the United States but around the world, who don't know when this movie is coming out, if they know that it's coming out next year. Because for some people, I can't imagine how they could live like this. The Marvel Cinematic Universe does not rule their lives.
Yeah.
So
okay, let's look at this from a hype train first. It shows you nothing. If you had seen the first movie, you know where the movie ends, and all this movie does is pick up right where that movie left off and showed everyone is sad and Captain America is shaved. That's what we learned from this trailer.
R.I.P. Cap's beard.
Dude, you're totally underselling it, but
You
go
are-
on.
yeah.
Go on.
I am but like, how does it give you any peek to the future? We learned
Oh, come on.
two things
We
that are
learned
new.
so much more than two things that are new.
No,
Would
we
you
know
like me to
two
break it
things
down
that are
for
new.
you?
So,
I've-
let's just break it down.
I've never had
So-
to turn your levels down so much.
So like,
So first of all,
So, like, okay.
let's go on the extreme side. It sounds like you're disappointed because you didn't learn things. You didn't learn enough new things. But I would argue that you don't want to know who survived. Like,
no, but we already know who survived.
yeah, you know Spider-Man's gonna survive because there's Far From Home coming out next year. You know that we'll talk about Doctor Strange being greenlit for a
That's
sequel.
not what I was looking for. I was looking for some hint of like hope or resolution. This was a downer trailer, which was the mood at the end of the movie. They
Great.
didn't set a new tone. Great. That actually sets up for this movie to be good. It doesn't make for a good trailer.
Oh no, I disagree. Because this is exactly what we wanted. It gave us the morsels that we wanted at the end of the first film. Because the first film, Thanos is the main character. Thanos
Yeah.
is the protagonist, and what this trailer sets up is now he's not the protagonist. Now it's flipped, and we're focused more on the aftermath and the heroes and their chance to really be the heroes of the film.
Okay.
Thanos is in the trailer for all of like 4 seconds, and you got for fans of the comics, you got the Scarecrow.
We got that in the end of the movie, though.
You got a fully established shot of the Scarecrow. You have, well, shall we do like a kind of scene by scene breakdown?
Yeah. We'll
Why
do
not,
scene by
right?
scene.
It opens up with Tony Stark. Tony Stark,
He's on the Guardian ship.
he's on the Milano.
He's
talking to
It's
his,
not the Milano now, but whatever. It's
sure.
like
It's the Guardians of the Galaxy ship as seen in Infinity War. We don't know if he's alone or if he's with Nebula, because last we saw him, he was stranded on Titan with Nebula. And here he's talking to a helmet, and it's a wonderful little soliloquy because he's defeated.
As a scene in the movie, this is great. As a part of the trailer, all we get is Tony is still sad. That's what we got from this.
We didn't get people being sad. We didn't get enough people being sad at the end of the first one because it was shock. We got shock, and now we have real grieving.
You know what I'm hearing here? I'm hearing that Kishore wants to see the movie.
I want to see. I want a sense of
Success.
Hope. I want
Success.
a sense of hope.
What-
If this is the end game, they're going to fight back,
Dude,
right?
there is hope. There is, because
There's no hope in this
There
trailer.
is. There is a plan, and it's going to work.
Because if it doesn't, I don't know what I'll do.
Exactly.
That's not hope.
So
and we find that somebody did survive.
yeah,
right?
yeah. Which someone who not only wasn't
we also knew he was alive.
two surprise characters, but like let's go scene by scene, right? Opens up. He's on the Guardian ship, talking to the helmet. The nanites are broken or whatever. They're out of water, out of food for several days, presumably heading toward Earth. Now, this totally is exciting because it sets it up for a rescue. And I'm not being coy here, but it could be Captain Marvel.
Yeah,
Makes a lot
that's
of sense.
theorized. That would make sense.
It could be a literal rescue. The character.
You're talking about a Pepper Potts.
That's been theorized as well. But Tony's not going to die out in space alone.
Of course not.
And so you got to read between the lines.
I thought the shot of the Milano or whatever it's called now, just floating in space, is beautiful, and that gets me interested in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But the emotional tone of this doesn't.
It's just reminding people how they felt at the end of Infinity War. It's
Great.
Just
Okay,
it's just
fine.
And I would argue
it's a bridge.
It goes beyond that because End of Infinity War, again, shock. Everyone's in shock. Here, you have what happens when people who are so level-headed, who are used to being in control, and like Steve Rogers, always has a plan, like Tony Stark, smartest man in the world, what happens
I don't think
when
that's
they feel out of
advancing-
control?
I don't think that's advancing an emotional story to go from shock to sad because everyone they love is dead. Of course, they're going to be sad.
And then anger. They're going to go all the stages. All the stages. So cuts to a bunch of montages back on Earth, and you have, we're not going through this actually scene by scene, but you have basically the surviving members of the Avengers from Bruce Banner to Thor to Black Widow and Captain America in the now Avengers facility. Looks very empty. And the big question for here, if you're someone who's going to pick frame by frame, is how long is this after Infinity
I think this
War?
is pretty immediately after.
I disagree.
You think it's far?
I think it's like half a year later or a year later.
half a year.
Yeah.
But Tony Stark says that the food ran out, water ran out 4 days ago.
He could have been traveling for a year on this
Those
ship.
don't also have to be contemporaneous because of
Because you think about it, the shock of half the world's population disappearing, it's chaos. They didn't seem to be in chaos. They seem to have, when you see Bruce Banner flipping through those digital screens of the missing, people have been reported missing. They've done some time to actually come to terms with who's been missing. And you see Shuri's gone.
which is new information. And then we see Peter Parker's gone.
And there's also Scott Lang, the image there. So I think they've had some time to really just feel the impact of what this means. And of course, Captain America had time to shave his beard.
Yeah.
It can't be immediately after.
and
they're back
he's
from
hydrating
Wakanda.
because he shows you he's sad by a tear coming
Yes.
down his cheek.
A solo
Because
super
otherwise,
serum
how would
tear.
we know that they're sad
Bottle
if
of
we
those
don't
tears.
see a tear coming down his cheek?
Sorry, are you really complaining about that?
I am totally complaining about that. It's just it doesn't do anything for the story.
You've
It,
never
like-
seen him that sad before. This stoic character.
Really?
Not when Bucky died.
I think he was. Well, I guess there wasn't enough time for when he was taking the plane down.
He looks defeated.
He does look defeated.
You guys haven't talked about the most powerful moment in the trailer yet, which is the reveal of the character who wasn't in Infinity War.
Okay, so that's the next scene. So there's a jump around, and you see again. This is feeding into my theory of this being much later, not immediately after. You have Scarlett Johansson, Black Widow, in what looks like Hong Kong, some Asian country, some dead thugs on the ground, and you have this mysterious figure with a sword, with a blade, wiping blood off a blade, pulls the hood off, turns around, and it's Hawkeye. It's Hawkeye, not as Hawkeye, it's Hawkeye as Ronin.
Yeah, I read about Ronin.
Ronin is a fascinating character because in the comics, Hawkeye had died, and he came back and didn't want to take up the mantle of Hawkeye, so he became a ninja, essentially. He started using,
his
nunchucks.
family is wiped out, too.
Well,
So
I'm
there's
talking about in the comics, though, the character of
yeah.
Ronin, right? And then what's also interesting about the character of Ronin in the comics is that it becomes a mantle for heroes who become lost to take up and wear the costume of Ronin. Echo in the Daredevil comics becomes Ronin and wears the same costume.
Like the Dread Pirate Roberts.
Very, very much so. Very much so. Love that analogy. And so here, again, his family, I mean, he must have had like leftover style, entire family wiped out.
Yeah.
Right.
This is the scene I liked.
Yeah.
Because it
angry.
showed you something new. It was a good evolution of the Hawkeye character. Everyone was asking where he was in the last movie.
Yeah.
This is a perfect little tease that's a payoff. It's probably not going to be a central aspect of this movie.
You don't think so?
I mean, Hawkeye's going to have some role to play, but
I read-
it's Captain America's movie.
I read one person's idea that Hawkeye was dressed as Ronin because like supers are illegal, like, and that the government is even more so down on them now because possibly they were at fault for what happened.
I have heard that theory as well, and the other thing that feeds into that is Thor potentially. He's like in his regular street clothes and sitting in a room, and the theory is that he's actually in a prison, that they've imprisoned Thor.
You can't imprison Thor.
You can't imprison Thor. He has the Stormbreaker. He could just
Yeah.
He ain't in prison.
Bifrost himself out of there.
I don't believe that.
Why can't he Bifrost to Tony Stark? Come on.
He can Bifrost places?
Yeah. At the end of Infinity War, his Stormbreaker has the Bifrost power.
Whoa.
He came into Wakanda on a rainbow beam of light.
I think he has to know where he
God.
is.
Don't you?
That's amazing.
Yes.
I think he has to know where he is.
Where's
And
the
if he's
handle?
If he's
Where's
adrift
the
in-
handle?
tree? Where's the handle?
Where's the handle? Yeah, I'm sorry.
The best part is him yelling tree.
Tree.
Where's the handle? Yeah.
So I don't think it's super as being illegal, but I definitely think that there can be some contention, right? Maybe not so much that they're being fugitives, because you see Cap and you see Black Widow. They're at the Avengers facility, right? This is a government facility. It's not like they're under house arrest either. But Hawkeye going rogue is an interesting take. It's a dark take, and the thing I will say is this feels like it's flipping the DC universe and Marvel universe tonality.
No, this is appropriately dark. Something really dark just happened. For them to go like Thor Ragnarok style on this would be inappropriate. It wouldn't make sense.
I mean, it's a logical consequence. I don't know how Hawkeye will fit into their plan, but he wants to cut off some alien heads.
I'm assuming that time travel is going to be part of their solution.
Not indicated. Oh, I guess the only indication of that in this trailer is the costuming. Because jumping forward in the trailer, you see Black Widow and Captain America talking, and Captain America is wearing his Winter Soldier uniform.
I would suggest the best
It
Captain
is.
America uniform.
Easily. This is his inspired by Captain Rogers' uniform, a Nomad uniform. Not Nomad. It's when he took over S.H.I.E.L.D. In the comic books, Captain America became head of S.H.I.E.L.D. And
I think in the movie they called it a stealth suit.
Yeah, it's basically that uniform, the blue one with the silver stripes. So he's wearing that. He's looking at his Peggy Carter photo and his compass.
Yeah.
If you look, it's the same compass and photo that he had on his
On the ship?
dashboard on the
Yeah.
ship when he crashed.
That's a nice throwback there.
It's nice. I don't know if it's the same prop. It's a little weird. I was looking at the image. It's a newspaper clipping. Captain America's photo of his World War II sweetheart is a newspaper photo. That's a little bit weird to me. And then it basically ends, and you get the reveal of the title. Now, this is the thing I actually.
No, dude, you left out the whole Scott Lang thing.
That's
after the
post title.
Oh, is it?
It's post title.
All
It's a
right.
stinger
That's
for the
right,
trailer.
That's right. It's the humor.
Which the trailers need stingers, whatever. The announcement of the name being Endgame,
Yeah.
I thought was incredibly anticlimactic,
Oh.
because Marvel, for one reason or another, had built up the mystery of the name.
And
Originally, this was Infinity War Part 1, Part 2.
Right.
They felt like this was going to be a whole separate thing, and then they had straight up lied about the name as people asked them.
Yeah, the
"Is
Russo
Endgame
brothers said the name wasn't in Infinity War,
It
which is
totally
a lie.
was. It was that line that you just heard Jeremy play at the beginning of the podcast of Doctor Strange saying we're in the Endgame now.
It's also
Eh.
said in Age of Ultron
Yep.
by Tony.
That's right. The photo of that studio shot that the Russo brothers tweeted, where they said that look closely, and if you kind of squint and blur your eyes a bit, you can kind of see the letters.
So you're
of
saying this was a
Endgame.
letdown if you knew the Russo brothers told you it wasn't said in the movie?
I'm saying it was a letdown because the hype and the mystery was so unnecessary.
Okay,
this
but
as a marketing exercise.
Okay.
I totally agree that the-
successful for them because people were talking about it and guessing.
So it's a letdown for the hardcore.
yes.
Okay.
Because
I think it's a letdown on multiple levels because at least like Infinity War gives you like, okay, we've been tracking the gems and now they're going to fight.
yeah.
That gives you that. Endgame just be like, we're
Conclusion.
concluding the
It's
story.
Literally, it's Avengers, the end, or conclusion.
It could have been like, and you can just twist that a little bit and it would have been better. Like Avengers, The Last Avenger, or Avengers Heroes Reborn, or something. Like, there are
Yeah.
all these things that you could
and
do.
one of the reasons I like that, Kishore, is because Marvel in their cinematic universe has previously taken storylines, big major maxi story arcs from the comic books and repurposed them, such as Winter Soldier, such as Age of Ultron, such as Ragnarok, and use them in the MCU. And so one of the theories was that this was going to be called, for example, Avengers Annihilation, which
Yeah.
would be a huge allusion to the cosmic forces and the cosmic storyline of Annihilus, which I don't need the character of Annihilus in the movie, but then you really telegraph that this is a cosmic story that they're telling. Endgame, I think, is just super generic.
I love it.
I think it's generic too. The Stinger with Scott brings some levity to things. I get that. And frankly, I felt like it was also flat too. It
I
was
think it
like,
felt flat.
I was like, hey, Paul Rudd, go Paul Rudd on things.
Yeah.
That was what that Stinger was. The thing they should have put in this teaser was Cap getting his shield back. Because that's gonna happen in this movie. If there's things I will bet you that shield reappears. And I think it'll get broken when he dies.
Oh,
in
I
this
think
movie.
Thanos is going to smash it.
Yeah, but show us the shield. Like, that would have been the perfect teaser.
That's not the teaser. That's the trailer, though. That's the trailer footage. Because they need to show something for the next full theatrical trailer, again, without showing where the characters who have died are.
Okay, so
Soulstone.
the question now is, you've seen the teaser. What information does the teaser provide you nerds in order to guess what the plan is?
First of all, it's us nerds. Dude, don't separate yourself from the
I don't
from the
have
group.
I don't have
We're
your-
all
your-
in this
your
together.
level on this.
Because
one.
we're in the end game now, Jeremy.
I've read one theory that the presence of Scott Lang at the end of this trailer telegraphs not just, hey, now Paul Rudd is part of this big potpourri of characters, but that his power specifically, and where we saw him last in Ant-Man and the Wasp, which was in the quantum realm, you had these minor name drops at the end of where they're saying, oh, if you're in the quantum realm, stay away from time vortexes. Time vortex? That could be something. And also someone has said that if the theory holds true that all the heroes who died, everyone who died, is presumably living in the Soul Stone,
Yep.
that with
Whoa.
quantum, with Ant-Man style suits, you can literally shrink the Avengers into the Soul Stone.
Wait, can only
I don't think that's what's
I
going
don't think
happen.
that's. I don't think the Soul Stone is literally a small place. I think it's a different plane of existence.
So you're thinking that Scott will make suits for all the remaining Avengers?
That is a theory.
I don't think he's going to make suits for all of the Avengers, but I think Norm's probably on the right track. That there's something about in Ant-Man. Have you seen Ant-Man and the Wasp?
No, just the first one. Is
There's
is Michael Douglas still alive?
Yes.
So he could potentially make suits.
Yeah. So there's a part of
Oh,
Ant-Man and the
sorry. You're saying is Hank Pym the character?
Yeah.
Still alive by the end of? No, he
gets dusted.
Oh, he's
dusted.
gone.
Yeah.
It's that in Ant-Man and the Wasp, you can infer a kind of form of time travel when they go into this quantum realm that I think they're going to utilize to go back in time, replace themselves in certain key moments that they interact with Thanos to.
Not Thanos. The stones.
Yeah, the stones. Maybe.
Psych out.
Yeah, I think there's going to be something like that where
Heist
they're
film.
interacting
Through
with
time.
themselves. They're either going to steal the stones
That could
to
be
have
good.
a version of the gauntlet where Cap snaps everyone back into existence, or something like that is going to happen.
Wow. Who do you're saying someone else can wield the gauntlet by the end of the?
Yeah, and I
Endgame.
think
Who do you think it's going to be?
I think it's going to as
gotta be.
Thanos said at the end of Infinity War when Gamora in the Soul Plane asked him what it cost him. He said everything.
Yeah.
I think it's going to cost somebody's soul on the Avengers
It's
to
gotta be
return
Frodo.
everything back to normal.
Call him.
No, I think it's going to cost our
Cap?
friend Steve Rogers' soul.
Ah, America.
No one being has wielded not one but two stones at once.
If there's
How can-
anyone, he's
Yeah.
the best among us.
Thank you, Mad German Science.
I stand by my review of this trailer.
All right.
It stunk.
And now we're back to
Okay.
Hey, before we get knee deep into pop culture, can we talk about why we're wearing these ridiculous outfits for a second? We're wearing Gremlins hats, and I'm wearing a knockoff of a Mondo Christmas ugly sweater. Apologies, Mondo.
It's not a knit sweater.
No, it's actually like the running fabric, so I can go in a jog in this Gremlins ugly sweater. I host a monthly movie night at the Alamo Drafthouse, and we did one for Gremlins. Mm-hmm. And I wore this outfit, and Norm saw it on Twitter and said I had to wear it to the podcast, and I showed up in it. But I have this great story. So we screen Gremlins. It's basically like a sold-out show. We talk about like the science of it. And I go to the bar afterwards, and I'm there, and this kind of youngish guy comes up, and he's like, I love Gremlins. I watch it every year with my dad. And it was so good to see it on the screen. He wanted to come up from L.A. to see this, but he got held back because he's working on a movie down there. And I was like, oh, cool, that's awesome. And I didn't really think much of it. And then he keeps going. He's like, yeah, my dad was involved in the film.
What?
And I was like, oh, cool, what did you do? Do you like work on like the animatronics? So I was like, no, he wrote it.
What?
This is Chris Columbus's son.
Oh, wow.
And Chris Columbus wanted to come up and watch our version of the science. And
Oh my
so we
gosh.
start talking to him about it. I'm like, aren't you sick of this movie? You grew up with your dad. You probably forced you to watch it a bunch of times. He's like, no, it's like this awesome throwback. And then he FaceTimes Chris. And so me and Jeff, who host this thing, we're having a conversation with Chris Columbus about the science of his movie he wrote.
Oh my gosh.
In the bar of the Alamo Drafthouse.
Did you ask him why Bicentennial Man was an abomination?
I did not. It was funny because we wrote a couple jokes about Chris Columbus that we ended up cutting out of the presentation. Because like Gremlins is such a ridiculous movie, like, and that's why I love it still. But
Was it responsible for PG-13? Or that was
it was. That's the rating. PG-13 came out of this movie.
That was the first one. That was
Wait.
PG-13. So I think it was Temple of Doom that like
was
inspired
PG.
it. Yeah,
Wait, that was.
it was.
Yeah,
it was
think
around there.
It was definitely
Wait,
Indiana Jones was part
there's
of that
so many
mix.
crazy stories. So like the idea of Gremlins actually came from Roald Dahl, who wrote like Matilda and all that kind of stuff. He actually was commissioned by Walt Disney himself to write a short story that originated the idea of Gremlins, which then Twilight Zone adapted into that William Shatner episode that's so famous.
I don't remember that one.
Oh, the episode
plane.
where there's a gremlin
Oh,
on
yeah,
the
yeah,
side
yeah.
of the plane.
Right,
That's
right.
William Shatner pre-Kirk.
Right.
And what's awesome is that initial like story.
Terror at
he
10,000
wrote-
feet.
Yes, that's right. Terror from 10,000 feet. That initial thing that Roald Dahl wrote is actually in the Disney Family Museum here in San Francisco, and you can actually see it.
Snap.
So they're really good, and the science in the movie is actually pretty good. Anyways, I thought it was
Terrible
just,
science teacher in that movie.
oh god, terrible. But he
Yeah.
gets his arm eaten off, so he gets his just desserts. But anyways, I just want to say that was just one of the funniest things that happened, and that's why I'm wearing Gremlin stuff.
Hey, you weren't on the podcast last week, Ashore, but I know you were yelling at the podcast as we were discussing a story at the end of the pop culture segment about this crazy Las Vegas prop bet. And let's go quickly into details because there's new information about this. We can let our listeners out there know we have a resolution. But two professional poker players in the midst of a head-to-head game of poker proposed a side bet whereas one would live in essentially a bathroom in pitch blackness for 30 days. And if you could do that and survive and endure, really, with food and other amenities provided, no electronics, though, no timekeeping mechanisms, no light, he would win $100,000 from the other person. And we had a fun discussion last week about how long you could survive and endure in isolation or in even pitch blackness. Since then, we do have a resolution, but let's talk about why you were so, I guess, let's say, dismissive of
I said I
just-
could do a week early, easy. I think you said maybe you could do more than a week.
I think that I said that if someone's life, my family's life depended on
Oh,
it,
well,
if there was
no,
motivation,
that's different.
and if it was money, you have to pay me a lot more to do a week. But
Yeah.
I would be able to do it. Like physically, I probably could. I could
You
do it.
replied saying you couldn't do 24 hours.
Yeah, you wouldn't. You might be able to get to the 24-hour mark. You're crazy. Both of you are so wrong. By the way, so there's a couple things here. Experiments have been done about how long people can stand isolation in a couple different forms. So there's a couple things to note here. So assuming like you have food and water, which was indicated by this, if you're in a lit, enclosed room with no other human contact, based on previous experiments, psychologists say that within 72 hours you will do permanent brain damage to yourself. Where that you will actually have psychological symptoms that will persist the rest of your life from that amount of isolation. 3 days.
So that's 72 hours, and 72 hours is exactly the amount of time that Michael Stevens of Vsauce put himself in isolation for his
Minefield.
Minefield episode. That's right. This is on YouTube. You can watch it for free. It's fascinating to watch.
This is very different than the Vegas experiment.
It
though,
is, because it is fully lit.
100, like 24 hours a day, fully lit.
And I think that actually affects him tremendously.
Also, no bathtub, much smaller space. And
I don't know I don't know the space of the Vegas area.
That's
so.
true, but given that the Vegas space had a bathtub.
But what's interesting about the Michael Stevens experiment is that he had 2 doctors observing him as well as family members during the 72 hours.
Yeah.
The door was unlocked, so he could have walked out any time. And as he went through, all the things that we talked about on the podcast, things that we would have done, go to sleep, exercise, he did. He tried mental exercises, counting things, made games for himself, and his perception of time.
It was gone within the first 24 hours.
Yeah.
And that's pretty normal. But what was weird is when you saw him come out 72 hours later, he was messed up. And then when you hear him later, he was messed up for about a week when he came out of that.
All right, look.
Okay, so that's lit. I think in darkness, it would be worse.
Oh my God.
Worse.
This is so funny. Like, I think that there are people who are cut out for this and people who aren't. Michael Stevens is somebody who is not cut out for this. He's an extroverted guy. He thrives on personal interaction. I'm practically misanthropic. I would love to be by myself for 24 hours in a dark room. I'd be totally fine with that.
I would love to have this bet with you, but it's completely unethical to put you into a situation that science says that you're going to get hurt.
I guarantee you. You give me 24 hours, like any kind of challenge, especially if there's cameras involved, I would be totally fine with this. Because you can still, like, interact with, like, the fantasy.
That's what happened with Michael Stevens. The cameras that were in that room watching him became his projection of interaction with it became his Wilson. He looked at the lens and he talked to the lens as if it was a person, and that actually helps stimulate his mind. Now, in darkness, very different. Now, let's get to what happened with this Vegas prop bet, because it was supposed to go until December 21st. That was the end of 30 days. It actually ended early, ended after 20 days, and not because the person who inside the room gave up, but because the person who offered the bet concluded that they were going to lose $100,000, that the 30 days would be accomplished with no problem. And so he offered to give them $62,000 and pay him for the time and end the bet right there.
So how did he communicate with him?
That's a really good question. And I think the food deliveries had a lot to do with it, because in terms of enduring, one, the people who play poker, maybe their brains are wired in a certain way for stress, for meditation, who knows? But I bet having regular food delivery, even irregular food deliveries, but having food delivered, that is enough of awareness of the outside world to alleviate some of the mental stress of isolation.
Yeah, wasn't it supposed to happen at random?
It was,
though?
but it doesn't matter. Like, if it's happening, like the fact that you can get food delivered, you know that is some measure of time, 3 to 6 days, right? That helps. Right? That is one sign of the outside world still existing. He also had a Rubik's Cube, apparently.
That would make a big difference. Like, every little touch does make a big difference.
The guy in Vegas?
Yeah.
But it's dark.
It's dark, but he could still fidget with it.
Right.
Like, having any physical thing will make a difference. So, Michael Stevens had, like, pillows and stuff like that and water bottles that he manipulated. I think it's super dangerous, Jeremy. Do not take this bet.
I understand, and I appreciate.
I'm just looking out for you.
I appreciate your concern. I just think that you severely underestimate the amount of alone time that I spent as a child. And I did. Like, I was a latchkey kid. I'm perfectly happy with it. I went home. I spent a lot of time making up my own games, inventing my own mechanisms around the house, booby traps for my mom when she would come home, and just making my own fun. I watched Mr. Wizard a lot, so I did a lot of his experiments.
I want to hear from the listeners who they think is on the right side of history with this bet.
You're probably right. I don't think most people are cut out for this, but I think I'd be all right. At least for 24 hours.
Right, and 72 hours. The big surprise for me, seeing how Michael Stevens went through it, and knowing, of course, he has a certain personality type, and the circumstances weren't exactly the same, but the fact that this guy in Vegas went through 20 days. If true,
yeah.
This is none of this is independently
That's
verified.
pretty big.
We're just reading the stories online. 20 days is an incredible amount of time. I'm worried for him.
I was worried for anyone that would take that bet. So
I do think the darkness matters to me. Like 3 days in a lit room sounds a lot harder to me than a week in a dark room.
Well, I got no way to segue out of this.
Okay.
But
What's next?
Let's talk about movies coming out this weekend. Now no longer 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Is it out?
It's out this Friday.
It's coming out Friday.
Out Friday. 99% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Aw.
You're gonna-
boo,
downward
not watching.
trend.
you're gonna be upset at me. I got invited to an early screening and I didn't go.
I forget you, Kishore.
We had tickets to a football game, and so I really wanted to go to the football game instead.
You could have watched it on Sunday, a whole week early.
Yeah,
Where?
at the Castro Theater.
My goodness. Dude.
What? Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse out this Friday. Super stoked for it. I may find a way to trade off and go watch it, and then let Danica watch it while I take care of the baby.
Oh, yeah. Good idea.
Yeah, it's one of those. We're figuring that out.
Yeah. Like at Disney World, you can have one person go on the ride, and then they wait in the regular line.
Yes.
But then they get a fast pass for the co-parent.
Yes.
And then they return. The other parent goes in the fast pass line.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that's
Kind
like that.
learning all these new ways of being a parent. I'm super excited for this. It's been super well reviewed, and I don't know anything else to say about it.
No. I guess
I'm excited.
I'm just excited. There's a movie we're all going to see because no one else can be bothered to see Wreck-It Ralph 2.
I want to see.
I have tickets this weekend.
Oh, good. We can talk about it next week.
And then new trailers. Godzilla King of the Monsters trailer.
I watched it. It was entertaining. It was fine.
That's it.
Yeah, that's all I have
fine.
to say.
Yeah.
Wait, did you see it?
I did. I agree.
Yeah,
I
it's
agree.
fine.
It wasn't as awe-inspiring as the first trailer with
No, the first trailer
Claire
had-
de Lune.
What's that look like on
The
Rotten
first trailer
Tomatoes?
had the
That's not coming
reveal,
out till next year.
like trailers are supposed to. Add something to the hype.
Dude, it's just a
Instead
teaser.
of just being sad.
Most teasers are like the logo and maybe a scene.
Yeah, that would have been better.
We can hose the grumpy gremlin over there.
Don't get water on me.
And then Hollywood Reporter made the announcement that Scott Derrickson, who directed Doctor Strange the First, is now signed on board to direct Doctor Strange the Second, a sequel.
Oh, this is good news.
Doctor Strange 2, Stranger Things.
This is my son's favorite Avengers movie, or Marvel movie.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Easy.
I think it's probably the most underrated one. It came and went, and I think it's fantastic. The visuals are so inventive.
Yeah.
The characters are great. The dynamic between Wong and Doctor Strange is fantastic.
Villains aren't the best, but outside of that, I think the visuals are incredible,
Well,
especially the Mirror Universe.
Left a hanging thread in terms of the villains, right? You had the classic mentor becomes the villain story, so hopefully we'll see that play out in the follow-up. In a post-Infinity War Endgame world.
Yeah, but what they're showing with Captain Marvel is they can take place in different timelines. Or not timelines, but different times.
Oh, period pieces.
Yeah, right. Maybe.
Oh.
I think we just get a natural 2 with Baron Mordo.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Yeah, I mean, take it to other worlds.
What's
right?
that?
That was the Chiwetel Ejiofor in Doctor Strange, that character.
Okay.
And then moving on, we got. Oh, geez, my notes are just going all over the place. Hey, how have you guys ever thought of spending like $200,000 on a Star Wars prop?
Not once.
Not once.
Like how big of a prop? Are we talking about like, a piece of the Death Star?
Talk
Like
about,
that level?
Luke's lightsaber.
Oh,
I'm sorry, Anakin's lightsaber
Yeah.
/ Luke's lightsaber
From episode 4?
from episode 4.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, one of those props for which there, I think it was more than one hero, was listed by set decorator Roger Christensen, or at least verified by him on Profiles in History. But controversy, that prop is now pulled from the auction.
Why?
There is some question as to its authenticity and provenance.
What?
In the-
Interesting.
It's a controversial world of movie props.
Good. Someone's looking out.
Yeah. There's actually a tweet that Mark Hamill did, just kind of throwing a little bit of shade at
Really?
this auction, or a little bit of skepticism at least. And after that, this prop was pulled. This listing was pulled.
He says, be advised there was no one lightsaber I used in the films, but many, both for myself and my stunt double. Interesting.
Yeah. And then finally, one more thing I want to talk about. But Stranger Things Season 3, you guys watch this trailer?
Heck yeah, dude. And this was a teaser. Like, there's no footage.
Yeah, that's fine. That's what a teaser trailer is.
I liked it. That was kind of clever. You got the episode titles.
Mm-hmm.
All episodes of season 3 have titles, and now we know what they are.
I like that this is what Netflix does, because they drop all the episodes at once anyway.
Yeah.
And I think they did this for last season, but it lets people kind of try, like the amount of theorizing you can do on episode titles is a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was one other piece of information. It says in the summer of 1985, which means I expect some Marty McFly wear to be happening with some of these kids.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you got Ghostbusters last season.
Oh, I checked the dates.
Well, yeah, you had Ghostbusters the previous, because
Right.
that was in the
Yep.
last trailer.
Yep.
For season 2.
So, what are they going to wear? What's going to be
1
the
year later.
big pop culture touchstone?
There was
the
also
80s.
like Breakfast Club came out.
I don't
that
think
year.
these kids are watching Breakfast
No,
Club.
I hope not.
Yeah. Although tonally they do take from Hughes.
Was it not 88?
No,
Back to the Future?
85.
Oh, you're right.
30
You're
years
absolutely
from
right. I'll be damned.
from 2000.
Oh, the Goonies
15.
too. Ooh, that would be good.
I mean, it basically is a Goonies
This is what the-
inspired.
yeah.
It is Goonies. On the TV side, are either of you watching the big CW DC Universe crossover,
Ooh, no.
Elseworlds?
Nope. I just finished watching it last night.
Ah, what'd you think? Well, set up for people.
So Elseworlds is this idea, like there's this big idea in the DC universe that something happens and that parallel universes, multiverses emerge. And so there isn't just Earth 1, which is the one we sort of associate with our forms of heroes. There is, Earth 2, and it goes up to like 90 or something like that. And that kind of explains like all these different characters. Now in the CW shows, Supergirl and Superman live on Earth 38. And
This is how they differentiate it from not only the DC cinematic universe, but just how they can be creative with familiar names.
yeah, and so they have an annual crossover where all these three shows have a time where they interact. And this one is based off of the Elseworlds comic series in DC, where a character called the Monitor.
Well, it's more a crisis thing.
Yeah, well, did you watch it?
I did not watch it.
Oh, okay. Well, anyways, this is a setup. Like all these heroes fall, and this character called the Monitor comes to Earth, and he's sort of challenging them with this book of spells that he gives to a guy that is a character that turns into Dr. Destiny. And it was okay. It's like a little hokey because everything doesn't kind of have the polish that you get with like a actual movie. But it's totally fun and enjoyable. They tease a lot of different characters. We go to Gotham City in this.
Batman
but Bruce
City.
Wayne is not there.
No, Batman. It's not a crossover with Gotham, the TV show.
No.
But they did bring in their version of Gotham, Batwoman, Kate Kane, as played by Ruby Rose.
Yep.
And the costume looks fantastic.
Costume is fantastic. Actually, I was really surprised how good the hair looks in it because she has this like red like lock of hair coming out of it, and it looked pretty great. They did tease that next year's crossover series is called Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Woo! Big news for comic book fans. And the TV shows are fun.
They're fun. They're not great, but they're enjoyable.
Yeah, on a TV budget. And their version of Superman and Lois Lane, I think it's very enjoyable. It brings me back to memories of Lois and Clark, New Adventures of Superman.
They actually played the theme for Smallville when you first go to
Wow.
Smallville. Yeah.
Interesting.
But in the show, when they go to Smallville and they
Yeah,
play the
there's
theme,
this little like musical interlude.
that's a nice touch.
Yeah, it was a real nice touch.
What about the Lois and Clark New Adventures of Superman theme? Bum, 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 bum. No, never mind. Anyway, before we move on to our next segment, I want to thank the other sponsor that made this episode possible, and that's Lutron's Caseta Smart Lighting System. Lutron's Caseta by Lutron Smart Lighting Control, brought to you by Lutron, is pioneers in smart home technology. With Caseta, you can schedule your lights to come on at dusk so your family always comes back to a well-lit home. And Caseta by Lutron takes your smart speaker, Alexa, Google Home, Apple HomePod, and makes it more powerful by letting you control your lights with your voice. Caseta is the most connected smart lighting brand, and it works with more smart home devices than any other smart lighting brand, letting you pair lights with things like security devices, thermostats, and music systems like Nest, Sonos, and more. And because it's from Lutron, you can rest easy knowing it'll just work. We have zero hands in our household and in the nursery, in our bedroom, so being able to voice activate using the Alexas we have in our room to turn on lights and dim the lights has been super, super helpful with a crying baby at 3:30 in the morning every night. So get smart lighting the smart way with Caseta by Lutron. Search for Caseta, that's Caseta, or check out lutron.com to learn more. Caseta by Lutron, welcome home to peace of mind. Hey, Jeremy, do you know who makes the iPhone?
Google.
Oh. If you were maybe elected member of the United States Senate, that's something you could think. Because that's something someone did think in Congress. So Google's CEO has been testifying about privacy concerns. And if either of you following the coverage, following the
I actually watched a good portion of it. It was really sad to watch it because I think there was real missed opportunity here because there was only one congressperson, I'm forgetting his name, who actually asked meaningful questions about privacy in the Google age, particularly about location service privacy, because Sundar talked about the ability to pause, different data collection services. But that's not complete information that Google keeps on you. And I think there's a way that you could press them on that. And I think there was another opportunity to press them on some renewed news that they're testing a limited version of Google Search in China under a project named Dragonfly. And we know very little about that. And he avoided questions on it. So I think this is just a big missed opportunity. And it's all getting shrouded by the dumb questions that came up or the grandstanding the Democrats did where it's like, tell us how Google search works, like that kind of stuff.
Did you see the Monopoly Man?
I did.
Money Banks?
I did not. Was he in the background?
He was in the background.
Oh, he's always there.
What else is going on in tech? Is this kind of like a slow tech week?
Yeah, there isn't a ton going on. I think.
Well, you heard about Google Plus getting shut down, right? So it's been accelerated
It
because
got dusted.
they had another little mishap.
Oh, no.
They realized that one of their APIs for about a week actually gave access to developers information that it shouldn't have. It gave not necessarily passwords, credit card numbers, but posts that were supposed to be private, that kind of thing. Posts that you didn't want to share with the world. Developers could get a hold of those. So they're realizing there are holes, nobody's caring enough, so they're going to accelerate, first of all, developer access. They're shutting that down in a matter of 90 days. And then actually they're moving the consumer shutdown of Google Plus up like 4 months or something.
Ouch.
So, everyone makes the joke, there's 4 people who care about this, but there are some major forums that I subscribe to that actually still used it. So.
Used Google Plus and...
I mean, it was also used as an authentication service to sign into websites. So I think the transition, I think they mostly transitioned that. But if you're still using some out-of-date website, maybe you might still be using weird authentication parameters.
Sorry, I got tons of windows up, and my computer's acting kind of funkily.
I think the biggest news of this week is this Intel chip announcement. I mean, it's just sort of like a continuation of news.
What is it?
Basically, we've been flirting with this idea of 10 nanometers forever, and it feels like some of those stories on release has slipped and slipped and slipped. And they unveiled at basically like an architecture conference this idea of something they're calling chiplets, which is essentially taking the chips and stacking architecture on top of them to have like processes running in parallel on different levels of these chips, and actually had an animation showing like the different like levels, what they're going to be responsible for, as a way of sort of getting to this 10 nanometer idea without it being 10 nanometer in the way we've understood it. Jeremy's confused.
Doesn't 10 nanometer mean something?
Yeah, it means that, yeah, it does. But they say like this will give you that same performance of 10 nanometers, but
Interesting. Imagine this new design with 10 nanometers. Even better.
If we can get the yields
Yes.
and not have it cost a lot.
I thought there was a 10 nanometer chip already being produced. Didn't we?
there is by different manufacturers, but
Yeah.
Intel's like consumer version of that hasn't come out.
Yeah.
And I think the idea of this is not a true 10 nanometer, because each of these chiplets will use like 14 and 22 or whatever in the construction, but because they have these individual modules, the way they're sort of optimized and stacked together, they claim they can get performance at 10 nanometers. We haven't gotten any news about this in like 6 months, it feels like. So I thought it was the biggest story of the week.
Hey, you have a new Apple Watch, right, Jeremy?
Yeah, I got the new one because I had the Series 0. And I got the new one.
Do you have the update now that
Oh,
you
yeah.
can track your heart palpitations?
Well, yeah, it doesn't. I mean, I guess, I don't know. Does it track it on its own? I think maybe it does.
It does passive
It
if you touch the crown.
Yeah, but you have to touch the crown, so it's not, that's like an active thing. That's like I can't just in the background. But yeah, so I immediately took a look, and I have just normal sinus rhythm heartbeat, which I was happy to see.
So what is that experience like? So if you're
Of taking your
yeah, like and how frequently you're doing this, and
Yeah, I would love to know how frequently I should do it. I'm guessing weekly. I don't think it needs to be a daily thing, but I don't know. The point is you now have the ability with the new Apple Watch of actually taking a look and seeing if you have atrial fibrillation or not, which am I pronouncing that right? Which is an irregular heart rhythm. And the big news of the week for Apple is that as soon as this update hit, somebody, at least one person, discovered that they had this, and they went directly to the ER and they got it officially tested, and the doctor confirmed it and said this probably saved your life.
holy smokes.
What's hard about AFib is that it can be infrequent, so you need consistent monitoring to actually detect it.
Yeah.
And there are treatment regimens for it. They're not always great depending on the nature of your AFib, but there are treatments for it. But diagnosing is the hardest component of it, and so
Because it comes and goes.
yeah, it comes and goes. And so what was interesting about this is the person tested it on himself. It came up positive. Then put the watch on his wife.
Yeah, because he was like, no, this has to be a false positive. He put it on his wife, and it came up sinus.
Oh smokes.
He put it on his other wrist. It came up AFib. So he's like, okay.
already paid for itself.
Yeah, I would say so.
And so we knew this was going to happen. I don't think we knew it was going to happen on like day one.
Right. Yeah, the doctor said, who he went and checked in with, he said, I read about this. I expected to see an influx of people this week, not on the first day. And it's great. And, I'm happy to give myself a test once a week. Super easy. You just you go into the mode, you touch the crown, and then it actually shows your pulse on the screen, which is neat because that's the only time you've ever seen that on an Apple Watch, like a live pulse that I've seen. And then it tests it. You have to be very still. You have to stand very, very still. You can't move around.
Can I borrow your watch after the end of this podcast?
Yeah, I think we
and
both
try it?
do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you trust it? Like, do you feel like that's something you look at and you're like, oh, this is some, silly tech feature that I don't think is giving me accurate data? Or do you look at it and say, hey, this is legit?
This feature?
Yeah.
It seems legit to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I'm perfectly happy to have that tell me that I have sinus rhythm.
Yeah. when it says, hey, you're doing great.
Yeah. I mean, Apple knows. I think that the health side of the features of the Apple Watch are probably the most compelling aspect to it. I don't access any of the regular apps. I don't go to the App Store. I don't download games. I never play a single game on there. I don't even like call an Uber from my watch. I don't do the standard things.
The apps I feel like are not as useful, and the whole ecosystem of apps, because there's no separate app store. You just have a companion app for whatever app you have on your phone.
I mean, we know the apps that are useful on their phone, message, and any sort of exercise.
Timer?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Timer, I guess
timer
you
maybe. And then this thing the health stuff seems like it could be interesting if it works.
And the fall detection, as you said before.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Very, very good.
I'm totally getting my mom that because for Christmas. Luckily, she doesn't listen to this podcast.
That you know of.
Oh, no way. Otherwise, she'd listen to it and be like, he's talking about the Avengers trailer again. I don't need to hear this.
Had plenty of this at Thanksgiving. Hey, what was I going to say? It's an anniversary this week.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary to Doom.
25 years. 25 years of Doom. Where were you when you first played Doom?
Oh,
I do remember. I played it in elementary school. I played it on a school computer and at a friend's house because they had the first computer, and it was shareware. And that first campaign or whatever it was that you got was enough. That was enough.
You were at a friend's house?
I was at a friend's house.
I was also at a friend's house. I believe it was my friend Dean's house. I was a teenager, and he had a nice computer as well.
Did you see it with him, like his first time seeing it?
I don't think
was he
so.
like, you gotta see this, man? It's midday. Yeah. I was in college, and I remember playing it. I must have downloaded it from FTP and installed it. I remember seeing Wolfenstein and then saying, that's pretty cool. And then, like, it was very short. Like, in terms of, like, today's timescales, it was only a year or two later that they came out with Doom.
I think, I remember playing Wolfenstein before Doom, for sure. And having a lot more fun, I think, with Wolfenstein.
Oh, then Doom?
At that moment, I think the jump from not playing Wolfenstein to playing Wolfenstein, that's all I wanted to play.
Right.
And maybe it was because it was like machine guns and Gatling guns. It felt more real. Doom always felt more difficult to me.
Interesting.
As a kid.
I loved the graphical improvements that they made for Doom. Like, I was huge into the technology of video games back then.
Fake stack levels.
Oh, yeah. And so that's part of Romero's interesting blog post. He talks about the technology that came and went during the development cycle of that game. I didn't know that they once had high scores in that game and lives. And they said those were rooted in the video games that they grew up with, so they were jettisoned in favor of the design that ended up surfacing. Plus, they got rid of like the 90-degree turns that every dungeon crawler had always had, from Wizardry, Bard's Tale on up to Wolfenstein, where it's like every turn is a right-hand turn.
In terms of the map.
In terms of the map, yeah.
Yes, but that's what I also liked about the Wolfenstein game, was that I could wrap my head, at least when I was a kid, around what the topography of the maps look like. Because they were as much mazes as they were levels, right? They were labyrinths.
Right.
And I like that aspect of reaching dead ends and finding...
You had a map, though. You had the auto map, right? You hit tab and you pull it up.
I don't think I even knew about that back as a kid.
Well, no, then you were really playing for real.
I was like, drawing out the maps and like looking for and checking. Like, did you find the hidden weapon here? Did you find the health there? And don't go through that door yet. The big enemy's through that big door. So,
you know what? A game never gets enough credit when it comes to that technology is Ultima Underworld. I don't know if you did you ever play that?
I never played it, but I've seen the screenshots.
So I played that in high school, before I'd even seen Wolfenstein. And granted, it didn't have a game screen that actually took up the full screen. Well, the game did.
There was a menu. It was
standard,
a huge half the size of the
screen.
It's
like a quarter.
Menu, right?
It's like a quarter of the screen was like your window into the world, which was very standard for that time. But it was always low res and like no frame rate. It was just like one, chunk of the map after another. But this was a real time exploration of a environment that looked kind of like what Doom ended up looking like, with real lighting and textures on the walls and going in water, all kinds of things. And that kind of gets lost in this discussion. I think that really was the first engine to do that, but Doom did it full screen and much faster frame rate.
And that's that it being shared so much.
And being multiplayer was massive.
I never played multiplayer in Doom.
Really? Because that was the first time where you ever saw someone else move on the screen that was controlled by your friend. I mean, that was incredible.
Did Doom have anything aside from left and right aim? Can you aim up and down?
No, it was all automatic. Like, you had to be lined up, but
Yeah.
if there was an enemy up, you would automatically shoot.
So it wasn't
him up.
until Quake that you could actually do a
with
look.
with id engines. Yeah, they had like I think Duke 3D did aiming up and down. So did
Right.
Dark Forces.
Yes, and a lot of the clones.
Yeah.
Doom was also famously moddable.
Oh yeah.
Reskinnable. And I think as a kid growing up, that was the big thing. Like you play the shareware, and even with the shareware engine, you could still change up the maps, change up textures.
Right.
And it was the first time I really went online, when I did go online and or share on floppy disks, like different skins and Power Ranger skins. And now you're killing Barney.
It really set that as one of their staples, is to release the source code, get the modders involved in their games. And look at them. Like you can run Doom on anything today because they did that.
All right. Any other bits of tech news we want to talk about? Because I'm looking at the list here, and
The Notepad update?
Microsoft is finally updating the Notepad, the venerable Notepad. Now, there have been plenty of third-party Notepad replacements. Notepad++ has been great for a lot of people. I like the simplicity of Notepad. I use Notepad so frequently as just not only just like it's basically Post-it notes, right? And I know there are Post-it notes apps everywhere, but I use Notepads as like to-do lists almost. Some of the features that they're adding, in addition to things that like some programs were like, they're now shortcuts for like saving a new window, save as, things I couldn't believe weren't in Notepad before. Now there will be the asterisk next to the name of your file if there are changes to the file.
Ooh.
I think
That's
a
good.
big deal.
Yep.
And I'm glad they're not overcomplicating it with things like tabs, because I don't need tabs in my Notepad.
That would be crazy to have tabs.
Notepad and Windows go hand in hand.
I can't wait for the first story. Somebody be like, Notepad crashed my computer, which you know is coming.
Yeah. Oh, we've talked a bunch about like deep fakes and computer generated imagery on the podcast before. And I read this really interesting Medium post this week by a guy named Kyle McDonald. And he went through a primer, one explaining how good computer generated faces are these days. This isn't the same as deep fakes where you're putting someone's face on another person's body, but more in the sense of like, here's generating a completely generic human face that isn't based on a real person, and yet it looks like a real person. He talks about how you can actually differentiate and identify computer-generated faces.
It was pretty interesting stuff, too.
I don't know, man. You played Skyrim?
Yeah.
Like the faces are all. This is a huge uncanny valley there. Are we talking about stills or animation?
Stills. Have you seen this? Yeah, click this. Click the story.
Yeah, because
Jeremy.
it's like some basic things, like looking at the background that you never really look at to identify the fakes. Because
that's not the first image. That was last generation.
This is
Scroll down.
horrific.
Scroll down.
I'm
Scroll
gonna have
down.
nightmares.
Every face in that second image is not a real person.
All these?
Yeah,
Wait, you mean like the whole head?
the whole head. Every face there that you see is a fake person that's a combination
Yeah.
of eyes and noses from other people, but blended so seamlessly.
Okay, but it is based on photography.
It is, of course. It's
yeah.
taking huge data sets and then running through
and
neural
reusing
networks
the data.
and reusing the data. It's
Okay.
not like generating
Okay.
purely from scratch,
Yeah.
but it is generating on its own these faces. And can you tell that they're not real people?
No, that's no. Nobody could tell.
Well, if you read the story,
No,
there are
nobody could
telltale
tell.
signs.
No, there's not.
You gotta
There
read the
is.
story. He talks about how text in the background is an indecipherable text in the background. Some really swats of really perfectly straight hair and otherwise naturalistic looking
Wait,
hair.
you think that even the hair is generated? It's not.
Oh, yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't think it's reusing
the entire
somebody's
image,
hair?
literally the entire image.
You're telling me the
Is
hair?
generated.
I don't know about that.
No,
Well, it's
true.
it's generating and reusing. It's like stretching out,
Yeah.
and it's taking the characteristics of hair in other photographs, and then remixing and tweaking and stretching to wrap around a face.
That's crazy.
Some of the his points are a little far-fetched, like about teeth and analysis of that kind of stuff, but the background thing I found most interesting because it will just make this kind of surreal background oftentimes.
Why did it make all these super attractive photogenic people and then that guy?
Well, that's the point, is that it
It
has
can
to
make
make
any kind
normal
of
people.
face.
Huh. It does it know? It must know.
I think we
does it
broke-
rate the
Yeah,
attractiveness?
right.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Huh.
I think it's just looking at old person, young person. I don't know. Maybe it does.
Crazy.
I think we broke Jeremy.
Don't trust anything you see.
Oh, it has come to that.
Hasn't it? Hasn't it really? All right. Oh God, there really is no other big story to talk about. Google Plus is gone. Alexa updates. How's your Alexa with
No,
Apple Music?
We gotta stop saying that word, man.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
God, you gotta.
I actually use the
How's your
routines with
Amazon robot
Echo.
device?
I'm using the routines right now. They power my Christmas lighting, and they also tell me every morning what the traffic looks like to my job.
What plug do you use to power your Christmas lights?
I have a Wemo.
Okay, I gotta get one of those because
It's okay.
got a like floor switch. I gotta.
The
find
Wemo app stinks, so I use Smart Life to manage most of that. And I have lights too.
So supposedly it can email now, but I told mine to email me, and it had no idea what I was talking about. So maybe I didn't get the update. But then I went into the settings. I was like, update, and it said there's no update. So how do you set up the email on your Echo device? Maybe I don't have that set up properly.
For it to actually send emails?
Yeah, it's
I have
supposed to
not
be able
done
to
that
send
yet.
emails now.
I haven't done that.
And it does all this location stuff, like when I get home, turn on the Christmas lights.
Mm-hmm.
How does it know when you're home? Like you have to be running the Echo app?
Yeah.
I'm not going to be running the Echo app. That's the problem.
Oh, I use it. We use it as a shopping list.
Yeah.
So I typically have it.
Huh. Like what I need like really the HomeKit.
Usually the routines are keyworded though. So you go Echo, I'm home, and then it does stuff.
Yeah, but the new thing is that these routines can be run based on your location. That's
Yeah,
what
I thought you still had to keyword it though.
well,
No?
I don't know. In any case, I think HomeKit may be the only solution for me because I'm not going to be running the Echo app. But unless I'm mistaken, someone correct me. At Jerware on Twitter, I accept all corrections.
You know, in terms of tech, would you count Christmas trees in terms of tech? You guys mentioned you guys setting up decorations. Did you buy trees this year, or have you always used
Fake
trees?
tree. Fake tree.
Fake
No,
tree.
As of last year, we are a fake tree family.
I've been
As
a
of-
fake tree my whole life.
As of this year, I am now a fake tree family.
Welcome to our club.
And I like it.
One
It looks
of
good.
us. One of
I'll
us.
tell you, the one of the most important things that put alongside a fake tree is also the smell of a tree. So we got one of those oil scent things, and
Oil, eh?
Ugh.
like to make it smell like a tree.
Not
you
candle?
plug it in.
Yeah.
It's not a candle. It burns.
Plug-in?
Yeah, it's a plug-in.
Yeah, that's overkill. Come on, get a candle.
Candle's real fire, and I got a baby in the house.
Yeah, live dangerously.
But it looks good. It smells good. I got it from a National Tree Company. It's kind of expensive. Like I didn't realize fake trees were like $300.
Well,
They're
'cause-
supposed to last a bunch of
'cause
years.
It's like 1 year. Like
Better.
they got to get you.
It better. Yeah. Do your fake trees have built-in lights or
Built-in incandescent. Yeah.
no? We like string our own lights.
Oh God, that's horrible. That's the worst part.
So our fake tree is now 8, 9 years old, something like that, and the built-in lights burnt out. Oh. So now we string lights again.
What do you mean they burned out?
We had incandescent ones, and
Yeah.
like
You can't
something's wrong with the connection.
Replace them?
No, but it's like they're like I did that,
Okay.
and like I don't want to go through and try that with like 150 bulbs on this tree
Right
or
on.
whatever it is.
Okay. Sorry to hear it. Ready for some science?
Sure.
Now it's time for a moment of science.
All right, a bevy of quick stories this week. We've now sent our second item out of the solar system. Voyager 2 has now passed into interstellar space. And we measure that based on its instrumentation can no longer register the solar wind from our sun anymore.
So, how divergent were the trajectories of Voyager 1 and 2?
I don't recall. I mean, they're pretty divergent.
They are. Okay.
Yeah. Voyager 2 is moving faster, if I recall correctly, a lot faster than Voyager 1.
Really? Some gravity assist?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah, because they switched the Voyager 2 trajectory like way back when to gather more information on Saturn. So they're definitely on different trajectories. I'm sorry, I don't remember that. Anyways, if you didn't see the video yesterday, we had an actual video of rocket surgery happening in space.
No, I didn't see that.
Rocket surgery?
Rocket surgery. This is a real occupation now.
Okay.
Russian cosmonauts had to repair a small, like 2-centimeter hole.
Oh, this is the 8-hour spacewalk.
Yes. So they went on this big spacewalk. We think the hole came about because there was a manufacturing defect and they plugged it with a piece of wood and glue. And which was fine for the pressurization tests on Earth, but it failed over a long period of time in space. So they had to fix this leak. So they had to literally get out a knife in space, cut through the insulation.
They're just jabbing at it.
To get down to the hole, and then they used a series of epoxies to plug the hole, and then like tape the insulation back up. And there's this, it's kind of hilarious video.
It's
of
terrifying.
them getting a knife out in space
They're in
and
space
just start
and yes.
stabbing a spacecraft.
Without context, it would look like a pirate hijacking your space station. Like, I got a machete and I'm just jabbing away.
And meanwhile, for every moment of this 8 hours, they're subjected to all kinds of dangers of being out in space. All these micrometeorites traveling at the speed of sound. No, thank you.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that was one of the suggestions, that this was actually a micrometeorite.
Yeah.
People are pretty sure that it came from a manufacturing defect.
Oh. Well, you don't have the extra chapter.
Blame the
Martian.
humans.
So
Oh.
dives into exactly where it came from.
About a week or two ago, there's a competition called CASP, which is a protein folding competition. One of the biggest challenges in biology is when you get these amino acids forming into proteins and then they kind of fold on top of each other. The complications are sort of astronomical. The math is really incredible.
Yeah, I used to run a screensaver that helped with that.
Yeah, the Folding at Home project out of Stanford. And it takes a lot of computational power, but also a lot of predictive AI kind of intelligence to do these. And they have an annual competition where research groups from around the world compete. Well, we had a new entrant this year. Google's DeepMind of AlphaGo fame entered, and they smoked the competition.
No way.
They
really?
absolutely, like, by one measure, there was like 43 tests of proteins that we didn't know how to fold. They won 25 of those tests, and the nearest competitor only won 3.
I mean,
when you tease apart the data, it was a little bit closer than that.
Doesn't that imply, though, that there's a smarter way to go about the folding process?
No, and it implies two things, I think. So one is that they use very similar techniques that were pioneered by other groups in the space. So they didn't do dramatically different things than other people. So I think that's the pump the brake part of this. But Google's infrastructure just beats the crap out of an academic lab. They have access to so many more GPUs and CPUs, and the infrastructure for sharing information is much better. And that carries a big advantage in this, where compute power is a big deal. And so there is some indication.
Saying all my folding at home efforts are for naught.
Well, here's the thing.
Might as well be mining Bitcoin.
I think the next step is they have to publish a paper about this, right? And I think this is interesting. So all of these other groups that publish papers, they put their source code out. And is Google going to do that with this? Even if you have the source code, doesn't matter, because if you don't have the hardware, maybe that it's meaningless, right? I don't know. I think there's an interesting thing afoot.
Okay.
In our last story, to pick up on that AI bit, there are satellites in space that use radar interferometry to look down at the Earth. And then really they're trying to look at how the landscape is sort of moving. And that's a pretty tried and true technique to understand shifts. And they're really looking at magma movement underneath the surface of the Earth. And combined with a neural network, NASA, using that data, was actually able to predict the spot where a volcano erupted.
Whoa.
And so this is kind of like, if it works, if it's replicated, if it can actually consistently do this.
How much ahead of time?
Not that much ahead of time, but they're able to sort of see the flow. It only works in this certain type of volcanic eruption where the magma is moving pretty quickly. There's a few types of eruptions where it's moving very slowly over years and years and years.
Yeah.
But any warning is massive with a volcano.
Absolutely.
Because it's sort of incredibly devastating. So I thought this was interesting that NASA's using the satellite data, but then combining it with neural networks to identify some of the movement, because it's just too much data for any human to recognize, and using that magma flow to kind of predict some hotspots. That's it.
That's a great counter argument. If anybody else says like, why is NASA exploring space when we need help right here at home?
Sorry, Steph. We did go to the moon.
Are we do some VR? We got time for it?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
The VR Minute. Virtual reality this week.
There's not much news.
Well, the big piece of news is that ZeniMax and Oculus have finally settled
They
their
did?
lawsuit.
Oh, good for them.
Now, previously, ZeniMax was awarded $500 million, and then I think a jury took that down to $250, and it was still in appeals. And then, while the details of the settlement are not publicly disclosed, we can now put that past us, and the companies can continue working on
Great.
VR. Now, the question for me is that whether ZeniMax and Bethesda
Yep.
will continue investing in VR now that it's settled, and like I don't know if they were doing their VR efforts because it was putting a foot in the door for this lawsuit.
Right, and they were not only investing in VR titles, but they were actually making them not compatible with Rift at launch. Like they would develop them for HTC Vive, and that's all they care about. And if you got it working on the Rift, well, good job hacking it.
So we'll see whether they'll keep those efforts. I would like them to because I really enjoyed those games in VR. Jeremy, you and I have been playing a bunch of Oculus Go titles lately. And
That's because that's where some of the excitement's been.
Yeah.
Recently.
Yeah.
I mean, we played. Obviously, we got to get back into the new Quest.
I know.
And
We
Rec
gotta
Room.
find time.
You're so busy.
Tell me about it.
Kid is affecting all of our lives.
I'm so sorry.
Talk about poo.
the blood moon, the crescendo needs to rise again.
Yeah, but we played a new Oculus Go game that came out. I think it just came out yesterday. Do you remember what it's called? It's called
Almost Heroes.
Is it Almost Heroes?
Something like that.
Barely Heroes?
Something Heroes.
It's surprisingly good. It's the game that you kind of wanted on Oculus Go to begin with. It's a first-person shooter. It's only 1v1. Like the entire game is 1v1. You can play against a bot, or you can go online and play against a random opponent, or you can play against a friend by giving them your friend code. And then you jump in one of 4 maps, and you get these power-ups, little lightning bolts, and it's free movement. You walk around the room as you would in a first-person shooter, which you don't see too much on the go. Because of that lack of 6 degrees, it can cause a little bit of motion sickness. So they do this nice irising when you move, which you can turn off or scale however you want, how much iris you want, reduce the motion sickness. As you said, when you start to move with it on, it looks like you can see the holodeck because it brings in these grids.
Yeah.
But I actually thought it was a ton of fun. Last I checked, I was number 9 in the world.
Oh, boy. We'll see when we record projections where you are. We'll talk about it. And again, if you have other AR, VR recommendations, please let us know. We're actually testing some gear. We're going to be starting testing some gear that won't be able to review until early next year. So that's a little bit of a teaser. But I think that does it for the podcast. I actually have to jump into a meeting. So
You do?
we have an outro.
Yeah.
I'll say if anyone is in San Francisco and comes to see, we're doing Science of Die Hard at the Alamo on Monday, and I'm gonna walk across glass.
Is that safe?
Sure.
It's called Slightly Heroes, Norm.
Okay.
All right. Just letting you know. All right, here's our outro. Oh, I'll turn the... What? Why isn't it... Okay, I think it's going. There we go.
Hi there, I didn't see you.
Gunther, grab the camera, trail Norm. Let's live stream this baby.
See ya.
Bye.